Okay, next we're going to look at a game Magnus played against Vishy Anand. This was the Grand Slam final 2012. And I believe you might have been surprised a bit by Anand's preparation in this game, or he played a line that was pretty sharp. Did it catch you off guard?
Yeah, so first of all, this was the so-called Grand Slam final. Played half the tournament in São Paulo in Brazil, and half the tournament in Bilbao in Spain. So Caruana had gotten off to a great start. That was in 2002. That was his first really good year, and this was the first tournament that he really had a chance to win at the very highest level. And I lost to him in the first round. I played the French defense as black. I was almost lost after the opening. Then I came back, outplayed him strategically, had a very good position, tried in vain to win an opposite color bishop ending with a pawn up, and even ended up losing it after he made a counter sacrifice, which should have lost, but I miscalculated and
I can't remember you playing the French defense.
No, the funny thing is then, so I came back, I think by beating Vallejo with black. Then I made a bunch of draws, and I had 50% before the second half. Mm-hmm. When I played Caruana again in Bilbao, he surprised me by playing the French defense himself. Probably, I don't know, probably there was some humor there. Yeah. And then I just played 2d3, and I beat him in a pretty nice game. And I think at this point, playing Vishy, I was, I think it was the penultimate round, and I desperately needed a win to catch Fabiano. Mm-hmm. But it didn't really mean that I needed to go all out. I'm just playing my way.
And this had the 3-1-0 scoring system. 3 points for win, 1 for draw.
True.
Okay, interesting.
That is true.
So even further incentivizes wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so he had this. The thing is, here after h3, then Queen a5 is a well-known. Queen c7 is a well-known idea, with the idea of Queen a5, and then if Bishop d2, we can take on e4 and then go. Queen e5. I think white actually needs to go Queen to b1 or something. Queen to b1, but the idea of Queen d4, there's Bishop c3 and maybe Queen c2. I don't remember. Anyway, that's not the point. Position is pretty equal here as well. Anyway, that's the point, is that here he still went Queen c7, which it hadn't really occurred to me that this would be effective with the pawn on f3, since now I can just go Bishop b2, and the pawn is no longer attacked on e4. But I guess the point is that he feels like the bishop should rather be on e3 instead. Anyway, here, knight c2, it was probably not necessary. I could have gone king h1 instead, but I'd seen his idea with rook fd8 to go for this break, but I guess I wasn't that scared. Mm-hmm. Now he goes d5. The thing is, if I take on d5 twice, it just takes back, and d4 is overloaded, and he's got a great position. So the idea was this knight c6, and then I go queen e1. And I did feel that my position was pretty good here. Probably I was a bit over optimistic, and the decision he made next was very, very strange. Like, why would you not go a5 instead of moving the rook?
And just out of curiosity, what was your time management like at this point? Because, of course, Anand is known for playing fast and for his preparation. Was he firing out these moves and you were taking your time?
Yeah, I think I was taking pretty long time. Even though I think we played with time control of 1.5 hours for 40 moves, so there was a limit to how much time you could spend. But I think he was playing pretty fast, and I was taking a lot of time. But still, I wasn't feeling too bad about.
Do you have any general advice for people when they are surprised their opponents clearly know the opening quite well and they're trying to find their bearings in the position?
I think it depends on the position. If it's a really sharp one, I would say be very, very cautious of your opponent's preparation there. Basically, at whatever level, if they're armed with computer preparation and you're not, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Right.
I would say in a position like this, although being prepared is still a massive advantage, then you can still find strategic solutions. So here it's not a big deal, but people have different ways. Usually I try and find a non-forcing solution.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah, that's nice. Probably once you notice the a5 potential weakness, you're like, okay, this is probably what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And I have the idea that I'm going to go e5, and I'm hoping that this will be good for me strategically. So anyway, he goes for rook d8. If he'd gone a5, probably should go e5. And then knight e8, knight d7 probably runs into e6, so you wouldn't want to do that. So knight e8, e5, e6 runs into f5 now, knight coming to g7, so I'm not really sure white wants that, but you can go f4, and I wouldn't be worried here as black, but also I was quite fine playing such a position with white, since you have some strategic potential with this pawn on e5.
Yeah, black's back. Black's play is bishop.
Yeah, the knight is pretty poor, but still, black has a nice central pawn here, possibilities for playing for a4, and his king is safer. So no reason why black should be worried at all. So anyway, he went for rook c8, e5, and e6. So here, obviously, if he goes f5, then his rook would much rather be on d8 than on the c file. Well, I cannot really imagine any line where you would rather have the rook on d8, c8, and not the pawn on a5. To be honest, so yeah, I cannot really understand what he was thinking there.
No future on that file.
No, I don't really know. But yeah, here he probably should have gone f5 here as well, and I don't really remember what my plan here was. But it doesn't look too convincing, to be fair. I can take I don't know, like knight f4 runs into queen d6, and there's no reason why I should be doing so great. So yeah, probably I just underestimated f5 here. So he went fe6, which I think is clearly not that great. Now after knight f4, he has a lot of weak squares. And after d5, after d4, the situation in the center is also settled. And
now you really start to harmonize your pieces.
Yeah. And g4, just taking away the f5 square here. It should be noted that the long-term prospect it's not as easy as just saying that black has weak squares, a weakened king, weak pawns on c5 and e6. This pawn not really going anywhere because of this blockading square on d3. So black does have the plan of playing a5 and a4. He does have an extra pawn, so it may not be that simple long term. But this particular move, g4, also contains another idea which he did not prevent against, which we'll see in the game. He went rook c6, trying to overprotect, and now knight h3, which was an idea I was pretty happy to find.
Knight on the rim to attack.
To be fair, yeah, exactly. Preparing queen h6 followed by knight g5. It's very, very simple. It's brute force, but it's hard to do anything about it.
Yeah.
He can go e5. I think I just go queen h6. If knight e6, I take on e5. Rook e6 followed by knight g5 is the threat. And he's in massive trouble.
Right.
So he goes for knight e8, quite logical, regrouping the knight, but I still got knight g5, rook e5, followed by knight h7 becomes a massive threat, and it's really, really hard for him to defend here. He goes d3, desperately seeking counterplay, rook e5, knight h7 is a massive threat. So he goes king h8, which was kind of clever, in that this is no longer a threat to taking on h7 because queen g6 will not be check. I just go rook d1, and now that he has gone king h8, he's sort of messed up his coordination in the sense that he cannot protect d3 because any rook move will run into a fork.
Right.
And the end was very, very pleasing in that he went queen a6, I went a4, and he just resigned.
Yeah.
Because he has no way to put a rook on the d file without running into a check. As we discussed earlier, king going back to g8 is always going to run into knight h7 followed by queen g6 and rook h5, and I will just gobble up the d pawn, going up on the e pawn, and he has no counterplay whatsoever.
Right.
It always feels to me a bit suspicious when your opponent has a passed pawn and your queen is way on the other side of the board without even threatening mate. But in this case, everything just works out perfectly.
Yeah.
So, but it has to be said that this was an Anand who was not at his best, far from it. But still, I felt that, at least from an instructive point of view, G4 at the next of the game was pretty nice.
Yeah, definitely. That's a key move in preparation for the attack with no knight f5 defense.
Yeah, and you gotta think past the idea of weakening your king here. It's much more important that the knight on g7 is stifled.
Yeah, another restriction idea of the knight. And it seemed like that black pawn on e6 really just cut his coordination. I know he would have been suffering with a white pawn on e6 if he had played f5, but he was caught between a rock and a hard place. If you take the pawn, presumably you're going to try to defend it as you did in the game, but
Yeah, the problem, like, if he loses the e6 pawn, he's probably going to lose e7 as well. So it's not a great extra pawn, but at least it's an extra pawn. But it's certainly in the way, but the alternative is even worse, which speaks to the fact that he should probably just have bypassed it by going f5.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you said, it's also a difficult move to make since we now have this pawn which sort of cuts the board in half, but probably my pieces are a bit too passive to make to take advantage of that anytime soon.
Okay. And very nice game, and also a great example of dealing with preparation. Sharp move that could have caught many players off guard, but you were able to find this queen e1 solution with the bishop a5 idea in the air.
Sure. At the same time, if he had gone a5 and gotten a decent position there with chances for counterplay, who knows? Like, it might have looked like I faced this preparation. I didn't go for the most complicated line, and I just got myself a complicated position that was not better at all. So where's the success in that? So I think a lot depends on the result in terms of how you view it in hindsight. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Excellent. We're going to start out with a game that you played in 2006 at the Chorus tournament, 𝐻𝐸𝐾𝐧𝐢𝐧𝐠.
Yeah.
And you were white against Grandmaster Erwin Lamy. We actually have a couple games from this tournament. So we're picking up this first game shortly after the opening. It was Ruy Lopez, and black has just played rook c8. So why don't you take it from here?
Yeah, so I feel like there are a few interesting points about the opening here. This is a line with d4 without h3 in the Ruy Lopez, which I used to play a bit as white, and also had some outings as black. I think I had the game against Nakamura in Biel 2005. I think there after 12 c5, he went d c5 instead of h3. I had many contests in this line back then, and frankly, I think I've faced it only once over the board since, which was with black against Gear in London in 2015, I think. And I didn't really manage to equalize there. So
and I think also maybe there was a game against Timofeyev from 2005.
Yeah, there was a game against Timofeyev as well, which I'd actually forgotten about.
Game from the black side.
Yeah, with black. I remember I made the draw pretty easily in that game. I think that was also played in the first round, incidentally, in that particular tournament. But I don't know. I don't think I was all that preparation based back in those days, like computer preparation. I just had some ideas about these lines. I would typically test them out online, and if they worked online, then I thought probably play it. I think I also had, well, if we just continue with what happened in the game,
sure,
a bit.
Queen D1.
Queen D1, knight C6, and knight C3. So one of the games that I was inspired by, which is actually playing Blitz online, is something I came up with myself. I think it may also have happened in some game later on, that after bishop to b3, then d5 could happen. And let's say after ed5, you go knight d4, and with this you have excellent compensation. And if you go e5, there will be takes, bishop c5, followed by knight to e4.
Pressure against f2.
Yeah, so I remember very keenly that I was quite proud of finding this idea with d5, and I really wanted to get it as black. I suppose in the meantime I'd found out that with white I could play knight c3, and then it isn't actually that easy. So,
which is interesting because you're offering to give away the bishop pair, which, you know, an amateur might think, oh, I've heard so much about the bishop pair, I should try to keep it here.
But it's really about time. Like, if you try and keep it, then d5 is always gonna come. And here I feel like keeping a grip over d5, not allowing black to break out, is more important than keeping the bishop pair. So I felt very keenly that if I could just retain control over d5, I would have a long-term edge. And I remember that his particular approach with b4, it's something that I hadn't really thought about. So I think my first thought was after this was that what am I going to do now? I thought black has very decent play with queen b6, maybe rook to d8, bishop f7, f8 to g7. And I felt like the knight on d4 is kind of misplaced. Like, it should be closer to d5, and it's just in the way. So I wasn't really that optimistic at this point, although probably white is still better. So yeah, I guess I just decided to develop in the center. I mean, I just turned 15 years old a couple of months earlier, so I didn't know better than to just put the pieces in the center and play naturally. Play for an attack. And
your next couple of moves look pretty standard.
I see that b3 is being mentioned here. In order to get d5.
Bishop b4 in the air.
Yeah, so queen e3, and then if d, then knight f5, and you have to give up the bishop when white's just much better.
Open position.
Yeah, because of bishop c5 and threatening the queen. But that's sort of not the real theme here. It's sort of an accidental tactical chance, I feel, and it's not really what we're trying to discuss here. But knight d7 looks a bit weird to me. Like, you're just inviting the bishop to find this post, but I suppose he felt like the plan of rook d8 followed by bishop f8 was too slow. And
that being a typical idea, trying to rearrange, get the bishop to g7.
Yeah, and I guess anyway my bishop is going to b3, so I can understand what he's doing. And it's telling that when his knight is coming to c5, the bishop is coming to f6, my bishop is going from b3 to d5, that his play is on the dark squares and mine is on the light squares, which is often what happens when you have opposite color bishops, and I'm attacking from the light squares. I will often be attacking pieces on dark squares, and vice versa. So knight c5, bishop d5, and I can definitely remember my thought here about going knight f3, that I was getting a bit impatient. Like, I wanted to
make something happen.
I wanted to make something happen. I didn't particularly feel that I had much where the game to progress in a quiet way.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose nowadays I probably would have gone for something else here.
Really? Even during the course of the game?
Yeah, like things like just G3, H4, H5 looks pretty good.
And maybe you can speak why G3, H4 would be a potentially desirable plan here, because I think amateurs might find that surprising.
Yeah, I think you just want to soften up the king side of it, which is also what I'm trying to do with knight f3. But I guess in that way I'm keeping more of control. But now I'm just speaking in general terms. But still, I mean, I find it fascinating to see my play from these days, because I really didn't waste a move ever. I was just
go for the throat.
Yeah, I was just go for it. Knight h2. At least I'm being consistent here. That yeah, I felt like my knight on d4 wasn't that great. I think there was always a bit in the crosshairs, and now I just wanted to get it to g4 and to attack. H5.
So you're seemingly provoking that move if black wants to stop knight g4. Kind of gives you a hook to attack with now.
Yeah, exactly. That's really the only point. Otherwise, I don't think I would just have wasted a lot of time and allowed him to improve his position with king g7 and h5.
Yeah, that's why I was a little surprised when you said nowadays you might play that position different with your knight on d4, because having seen the course of this game, this looks like such a visually pleasing plan to me. Retreat the knight, induce black to play h5.
Yeah, it could be that I would just handle the position better back then, but I would be very worried that I'd missed some little tactic which allowed him to just consolidate his position here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it could be that what I did was just good. As a matter of fact. But yeah, it's really amazing that rook h8 just apparently doesn't work.
Looks like such a natural defensive move.
Yeah. Just king g2, and g5 followed by f4 is the main idea. The thing is, I think I felt it even back then, and I feel it very clearly now, that once you kick the bishop out of the diagonal, black is just busted.
So king g2 is preparation for g5
for g followed by f4, exactly. Yeah.
No lurking queen on b6 to worry about.
No, exactly. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what knight e6, for instance.
And for our viewers, international master Krzysztof Sielecki and Magnus's longtime second, Peter Heine Nielsen, collaborated in writing the notes for this course. So I think Magnus will be especially interested to see their analysis at various points.
Yeah.
And they pinpointed rook h8 as the decisive mistake for black, in fact, in this game.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, even after other lines here, it's clear that white is pressing. So yeah, I guess I should take it back that I actually felt it a lot more keenly than I thought that I did. So
Yeah, maybe it's possible Black's knight maneuver even was somewhat of a mistake.
Maybe. But looking at the position, I'm worried for Black even after something like Rook FD8. It feels like it feels like even here, let's say Bishop goes to F8. There's some Queen G5, Bishop G7. There's no Knight F5. It's not so obvious. No, I mean I still feel like this Knight H2 G4. It's a logical idea for sure.
Certainly, if you're going to go through the trouble of Knight H2, you're going to continue with that.
Yeah, and I do remember that I felt pretty confident that it would work during the game. I was pretty happy about it. But like,
you got the momentum. You're 15 years old. You're killing people.
Yeah,
life is good.
Yeah, I just come off the World Cup, which was a huge result for me back then, and I guess I thought playing Lamy that even though I'd lost to him just a few months earlier, that this guy is somebody who I should beat.
Okay. There you go, Dutch Grandmasters.
Yeah.
Magnus has been coming for you for years.
They already know that. Okay. I just find it fascinating. So here also Bishop F7. I think I calculated for a while, but I couldn't calculate it till the end. But I just once again, I just felt so confident that this was gonna work.
And if you back it up a move before Black played Knight D7, why is Black's position so desperate here?
The thing is, you have a concrete threat, which is to go Knight F6, followed by Queen F4 with pretty immediate carnage. And then after other moves, I guess you could consider Queen D8. Here, for once, Queen F4 looks pretty strong as well, threatening Bishop F7, followed by Rook D6, which it probably actually doesn't, because let me just show that. I guess here E5 would be pretty strong, but Rook D6 might actually be a mistake because of Knight E6.
Yeah, that looks pretty miserable, though. Black's Queen on D8 and all these lines.
Okay, I'm just freestyling here. Probably even this wins for white, but
Black's king get completely shredded here.
Yeah. But it just goes to show that I do feel like even Bishop F7 here would be pretty strong. And here also Rook E3 to F3.
Yeah, it really does seem like when that knight lands on G4 that Black's just unable to cope. And
it for the moment my king is pretty safe, and it's not like I've taken on that many positional disadvantages in order to get this ferocious attack. So I feel like I'm attacking and I'm sort of playing with house money as well. So
free roll attacks are the best type of attacks.
For sure. I've been making a living on those for the last 10 years.
Put the guy under pressure, and you can do it for free, all the better.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, Knight to D7 happened. I took an F7, played Queen F4.
So now threatening Rook takes D6.
Yeah, threatening Rook takes D6. And King E6. There's no other option. I thought there was there was some way of getting
for black to make it messy.
Yeah, I thought there was some way for black to at least, I think, get some position with queen against two rooks or something, which was lost, but you could still play. So because I remember thinking that it was completely winning, and then somebody showed after the game that there were still some possibilities for fighting. I just cannot for the life of me remember what it was, but I seem to remember that it was not as utterly convincing as I'd remembered. So let me see if I can figure it out.
Yeah, because this looks so crushing at this point.
It most certainly does. So could it be D immediately? I'm thinking that way. Maybe you force white to go queen e5 in order to go rook d6 next, because here we got rook e5 and rook d6, and it's all very concrete. Rook c1 is not mate, and
white screen covers. That's important.
Which is pretty easy, but still you kind of wanna double check these things.
Yeah.
I mean, could it have been g5? Queen f5.
Maybe king e7. Still looks so shaky for black.
Yeah, I think I still do the same here. Take
an e5.
Take an e5. But I'm thinking queen f4, if g5, queen f5. At least you can go queen c6, right? And there's no immediate e5.
Yeah, because in the game continuation, black was pretty much losing without a fight. Maybe you can show the last few moves.
Yeah, I'll just show the last few moves. Queen b7. There was takes. There was rook d6, queen f6, and rook d8.
Right.
So both players are
gonna get a rook e7 at some point soon after that.
Yeah, both players have mating attacks, but I'm to move, so yeah, just important not to go for this, and that would be potentially quite embarrassing.
Right, landing on h1.
Rook h1, yeah, queen h1 is not mate. I think you'd go to h4. Yeah, sure. But rook d8, as you said, then. There will be rook e7 or queen e8, king f6. I guess rook e6 mates, but there is also queen e6. I'm just taking the rook.
Pick up the rook,
as they say. LPDO.
Loose pieces drop off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So distilling this game down to maybe a couple of themes, it seemed to me that knight maneuver. Going to knight f3 to h2, looking to get into g4 and really provoking that h5 move. I thought that was quite nice.
Yeah,
your pieces and your pawns.
It's really speaking of the best parts of my games in those days. Very, very concrete thinking and just no nonsense.
Just super direct.
Very, very direct. And yeah, in that sense, it was a perfect game on my part. That I went for a plan, I followed it, and it worked. So
okay, put black under pressure and came out with the victory.
Yeah, and I think it also helps that who's probably quite a bit better from the opening there. I had something to work with at the very least. So
awesome.
I think for those who are hoping to pick up this line with white, there are a few things to be concerned about, but most of all that this particular line with taking on f3, playing c5 before going knight c4 was very, very popular 14, 15 years ago, and I remember very clearly that was the height of the theoretical discussion in this particular line, and it was what I was following at the very least. At least in my mind, this was a huge line. To my mind, I almost didn't look at h3 these days.
H3 being the classical move here, with the most theory.
It was mostly about d4 with both white and black. So how the times change, and it should also be mentioned that a lot of people go castles in order to play the marshal attack, and in case of d4 they don't play d6, c3 to transpose, or some people do, including myself, but most people go knight d4, which is a different line entirely.